Israel, we have a special guest named Stav Brener. He's a Shliach in Florida, in Jacksonville, in the JCC. We would like to encourage you guys to turn on the camera. So, so that way we can see who we're talking to. And we will appreciate it very much. And Stav, הבמה שלך.
Thank you, Sivan. My name is Stav Brener. I'm 24, from Tel Aviv originally, born and raised in Tel Aviv. I'm currently the Shliach in the Jewish Federation and Foundation of Northeast Florida. And it is based in Jacksonville. And I'm very, very happy to be here to share my experience from serving in the IDF for 4.5 years. And I'll focus specifically on one part of my service. I think it's time to share, and we can start with these photos. So I joined the Army in February 2016, and I enlisted into the intelligence unit. So all of my years in the service were in the intelligence unit, but it is actually very, very unique, and there is a lot of things you can do in the intelligence forces. I started as a GIS analyst, which we'll learn a little bit soon. What is GIS? It means Geographic Information Systems. And for my first 2.5 years, maybe 2 years of my service, that was my job. I was focused on intelligence work, working on geographic information systems, supporting soldiers in the field, making maps. And that is not what I'm going to focus on today. But after 2 years of my service, I understood I wanted to do something different, and I decided to go into commander's course and become a commander to teach soldiers how to do exactly the same thing I knew. So I was very fortunate to be able to be a commander of the same course I did until I reached the time to finish my service, which is 2 years and 8 months. But then I understood that was not enough for me as well. And I decided to sign a 2-year contract to continue my service. And the plan was to finish being a commander at courses and come back to my unit and be a team leader in the geographic information systems job, which I'm happy if we have some questions at the end specifically about that. I'm happy to try and answer some of those questions. A lot of it is confidential, but if we have the opportunity at the end to speak about what I did at the beginning. So after 2 years and 8 months, I was supposed to become a team leader, but then an amazing opportunity came to me. And my unit commander called me and told me, Stav, are you familiar with Roim Rachok program? I guess I'll stop this and we'll go back to the photos soon so you can see my face. Are you familiar with the Roim Rachok program? And that is what we're going to talk about today. But of course, I told him, I am very familiar with it. It's amazing, but what's my connection to it? And he asked me to join the Roim Rachok program and build a new course that on my expertise on GIS. So I was very fortunate to join the Roim Rachok and start a new course for GIS. And from then I was hooked. So I continued with Roim Rachok for the last 2 years of my service as a non-commissioned officer. And I did all the jobs possible within the program. I was a commander in the course. I was the course commander. And then eventually I was the program manager, the program commander. And so what is Roim Rachok? And that's what we're going to talk about today. But that also includes a lot of people, and I wanted to show you a little bit of photos of people that were very meaningful for my service. Soldiers I worked with and commanders I worked with, and that can help us to start. So Roim Rachok means seeing far, looking far, and it is a program meant to bring young adults on the autism spectrum to do very meaningful jobs in the Israeli Defense Forces. As a lot of you know, the Israeli Defense Forces are a very big part of the Israeli society. And unfortunately, for some people, the army doesn't want them to serve because they have some maybe health issues or mental issues, or for example, if they are on the autism spectrum. So if a person is diagnosed with autism, when they go to their Stav Rishon, which is the first time you start thinking about the army and you start doing your first tasks and tests to go into the army, they give you automatic, like a release letter. You don't have to serve. And the army today has a few programs to bring those people, the young people on the autism spectrum, to the army. And most of these programs are kind of like charity to them, which is, it's sad because they bring them, but they don't use their real strengths. They just put them in like these positions so they can enjoy their time and be a part of the Israeli society. But what's unique about Roim Rachok is that it's a program that takes their strengths and puts those soldiers in really important positions in the IDF. For example, they could do the same, very similar job to what I did. So I was very, very excited to join Roim Rachok. And I want to give you a bit of a story on how everything started and what is Roim Rachok. So Roim Rachok is not an army program. It is actually a non-profit organization. It's not managed by the IDF. It is managed by, it was founded by two very high-ranked people from the defense units, not in the IDF, but they were very high-ranked, a lot of connections. Liora, she's one of the founders. She has a son on the autism spectrum, and Tal has a very strong connection to that. And he was also looking to, after his very long service to the country of Israel, he was looking to make an impact. So they joined together. They started this program in 2012 with the idea of leveraging of strengths of young adults in the autism spectrum. And it really started with Liora wanting to find a place for her son, who was 18, and she wanted him to serve like she did. And she understood that there are a lot of other people on the spectrum that were looking to serve, but the army kept saying no. And if the army did decide to take them, it was only through a very specific program that usually puts them in very logistics kind of jobs. So not jobs that they can't take tests to try to get into maybe programming jobs, or they can't be fighters, of course. So they were looking to not only to find a solution, but also to see how they can make it unique. So to understand what was the idea, we have to understand a little bit about the autism spectrum, which in Israel we call the autistic spectrum, but I know it's not the right way to say that in English. And I'm not an expert. The only experience I've had with people on the autism spectrum was through the army. I did do a few courses. I did learn about it through professionals, but I did want to give you just a short view of what is the autism spectrum to understand what kind of people we brought through the program. So the autism spectrum is, well, it's a spectrum that you can look at the two different places on it, severity level 3 and severity level 1. So severity level 3 is what the professionals call classic autism, which is not just social, communication, and behavior difficulties, it's also an intellectual disability. And this is what a lot of people imagine when people say autism. They can't function by themselves. They have to have support on a daily basis. Some of them can't even speak. And that is just one part of the spectrum. And if you go all the way to the other side, which is severity level 1, which is called high functioning autism, some people might know it as Asperger's, which is not used anymore in the professional um, sector. They just call it autism, high functioning autism. Um, these are people that can communicate, they have social interactions, they can have friends, they can speak, they can do tasks, they can do everything. And actually, a lot of them have above average IQ, but they require some support because their social skills are not very good. They sometimes not understand social situations. Their communication is not very good. They might not understand if someone gave them a task or if someone tried to give them a hint or something, maybe. Like you don't want to say something direct, so you give them a hint, they might not understand it. Behavior might be different. It can be maybe very tough. They don't know how to manage their time. They don't know how to manage their feelings. This is the high functioning autism. And these are the soldiers we have worked with. And they are all very different than one another because there are like 10 criteria of autism that to be diagnosed, you have to answer. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's 4 of them. And that means that you can see 2 people both diagnosed with autism that have totally different characteristics regarding their diagnosis. So why are these issues the Army need to worry about? Social communication and behavior are very, very important when you are a soldier. You have to know how to interact with other soldiers. You have to know what is a command. If your commander says something, you have to listen to him. You have to know what are the accepted behaviors in the Army. You have to be on time. There are a lot of these little things that if you just take someone on the spectrum and you just put them in a regular unit, it will be very, very, very tough for them to succeed, to adjust, to adapt themselves into this new reality of the Army. So that was one thing they understood about the autism spectrum, but also a lot of people are being diagnosed. The numbers are getting higher and higher, and it's not because it's a disease that gets transmitted between people. It's because it's easier for us to understand today who is on the spectrum. It's easier for us to diagnose it, and also more people go get diagnosed. There is more knowledge about it. More people understand that what it is. So you can see the numbers going higher and higher all over the world, and also in Israel, of course. So there is a need because there is a big community. So the vision of Roim Rachok, which again is a nonprofit organization that was founded outside of the Army, it works a lot with the Army, and that will be the perspective I'll bring to you because I was the part from the Army. But the vision is to provide young adults on the autism spectrum an opportunity to enhance their strengths in core professions, contributing to themselves and to society in a meaningful way. So this is not only about the Army. The idea of the program is to take their strengths in these core professions that they can use in the Army and also outside of the Army, and make this time very, very meaningful to them. Give them the feeling of success, but also it's not charity. They bring very important abilities to the Army. They can contribute to the Army, they can contribute to the society. So the goal is to include young adults in the autism spectrum in the military service and in the civil working force, utilizing their strengths and specific characteristics in needing professions. So this is basically what I've been saying till now, is that it is very, very important to identify what can these people do that they're good at. How can we take them and maybe give them jobs that regular soldiers that are not on the spectrum, neurotypical soldiers, as the professionals like to say, there are some tasks that are difficult for them to do, but will not be as difficult for soldiers on the spectrum to do, because we can utilize their strengths, which are sometimes seeing very small details, sometimes maybe concentrating on this specific task for a long time. I've met soldiers that can be on the computer, nonstop work for 3 hours, looking at just one picture, trying to find some information, some intelligence information. So it's incredible the things that they can do, and they really want to do it. They really, really want to be a part of it, because a lot of them have had really bad experience during their life with trying to be a part of the society. And then when they're giving the opportunity to be a part of something so big like the IDF, a lot of them really, really appreciate it, and they really give everything they can. The principle of the program is that there has to be a real need, and there has to be a real capabilities. If the unit doesn't need them, then we won't bring soldiers to that unit. Only if the unit understands that these are the jobs they can do and we need that kind of jobs, we bring them to that unit. But also, we need to make sure those soldiers have the capabilities, they have the knowledge, they are able to be a part of the Army society. So it has to be a win-win situation. The soldiers win, the Army wins, everyone is happy. And it's not just about the job, it's also about how these soldiers being in the unit, sitting in the same office with other soldiers, that also contributes to them. It brings a lot of meaning into your day-to-day life. Because a lot of people serving in the IDF have never met someone on the spectrum. They might have these previous beliefs on people on the spectrum. And then when they see that they serve with them, everything is possible. So let's talk a little bit about the professions. And if you have any questions, you can, well, we're not a lot of people here, so you can just, I think, unmute your mic and speak, or you can write it on the chat and Sivan can bring it to my attention. But I'm happy to answer your questions. So this is a little bit about the background, and now we can understand what kind of professions we train those soldiers to do. So the program started in 2012, and it started with this profession called aerial photo analyst, which is a very, very important part in the intelligence unit, where you interpret, you analyze, you process photographic data from all these different sources. It can be photos from planes, it can be photos from satellites, it can be other pieces of intelligence. And the idea is to look at those photos and try to extract as much intelligence as you can. So I'll give you a few examples on how important this kind of job is and how difficult this job is. The world is very, very big. There are so many photos you can look at, so much information, and you have to start by picking where you want to look. So for example, if we're talking about the Gaza Strip, which is a classic place for us to try to gather intelligence from, we want to find where Hamas is hiding their rockets. But Hamas are very, very smart. They're not just going to put their rockets outside, and when we look at the photo, you can just see the rockets there. Hamas are going to hide those rockets. We have to understand how they hide those rockets, and we have to find them in the picture. So if we look at a normal picture, what kind of information can we understand from it? So we can understand through the roofs, what kind of building is this? Is this a school? Is this a mosque? Is this a hospital? Is this just a regular home? Or if we look from the skies again, we can find maybe tents. What's under those tents? Or if we look at bridges, or if we look at ships, or if we look at cars, we can find a lot of information just from a photo if you study it. So that requires really, really attention to small details. So those soldiers that we brought to do that job at the beginning, and this is the biggest profession that this program has. It's really, really tough job. And there are a lot of soldiers doing it, not just soldiers from Roim Rachok, but those soldiers from Roim Rachok can do tougher tasks that require more pay to attention. And maybe they don't look at cities, they might look at fields where it's even tougher to find something specific. So that's one of the core professions we've had with this program. And the profession that joins to it is the GIS, the Geographic Information System. And these two professions are kind of connected to the same unit in the IDF. And I was the commander of the program in that unit. And we had more than 50 soldiers serving around those professions. GIS has been on for now, I think, 3 years now. And I do want to show a little bit about what is GIS. And that is, again, what was my expertise from the beginning of my service. And that is also the new profession that I was fortunate to bring to the program. And that is a little bit what GIS is in the civil field, of course.
GIS stands for Geographic Information System. Using computer hardware, software, and a ton of raw data.
I am very lagging, so I'm assuming you are. Did you see the video fine, or was it lagging for you? Let's see if we can start it from the beginning.
Roim, we can see it. לא, זה לא חלק בקיצור.
Okay.
GIS stands for Geographic Information System. Using computer hardware, software, and a ton of raw data, we can explore the fundamental principle of geography. That location is important.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm having some connection problems, I believe. Let's see if you get
in people's lives. Using GIS, we can view, understand, question, visualize, and interpret data in visual ways that reveal relationships and patterns, which allows us to make better decisions. For example, a meteorologist might study the paths of hurricanes to predict where and when they might occur in the future. A city planner can choose the best location for a new park or hospital, ensuring that they are built in the place where they're needed the most. GIS is essential to understanding what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen in geographic space. Geographic understanding brings wisdom, and with wisdom, we can make better decisions to create a brighter future.
So I don't know how much how much you could catch from that, but I'll explain a little bit that GIS is a way, it's a computer system, basically. It's a form of using information that's geographic and understanding and basically having all the information we gathered from the aerial photo analysts, for example, putting all this information together and make good decisions based on it. So that would be like making maps or analyzing different data, maybe foreseeing the future a little bit. It can also help us plan on how to maybe where to move the units to. If we want to plan tanks going in some area, we need to analyze the area before, understand the surface, understand where would be a good position to put the tanks at. So that is also another profession that we've started doing with Roim Rachok program. Another one is software programming, which is pretty classic for people on the autism spectrum, because that really requires a lot of details and a lot. Well, it's natural for a lot of people that are diagnosed on the spectrum to like computers. So that is also very successful. We also have information analysis, which is kind of like the geographic information analysis, but it's not geographic. So this is gathering information from the internet, from Facebook, from all these social media. You would be surprised how many people post on Facebook, I am going to kill someone in Jerusalem today. I'm very, very angry. And because of that, we can find them and we can prevent it. So that is also very, very important. And that also requires a lot of nerves to sit down and look at a lot of information and process it. Electric technicians. So not all of them are very good with computers. Not all of them can look at Excel files and look at a lot of text. And some of them are just better with more like hands-on kind of projects. So we have the electric technician kind of job, which is very good for the soldiers that are just better at that. So you see, we have different professions that can hit different types of abilities. So the program is based on 5 stages. It starts with a very, very thorough, very, very like intense locating and sorting the soldiers. Not everyone on the spectrum belongs in this program. So they go through a lot of different meetings with professionals like occupational therapists and speech therapists and people from the Roim Rachok organization, trying to understand if they can fit to the army. Then they also go through tests from the army. We, the commanders, come and we do all those tests to them to see if they can succeed through the course. We give them a taste of trying to work with the programs they're going to work with, or to see if they have the natural abilities of seeing the information from the photos. And that is very important to see because if they don't succeed in those tests, they're not going to do well in the course. But we do have those different kinds of courses. We have those that are for more visual. We have those that are more for programming, those that are more for practical, like doing things on hand. So the locating and sorting of the soldiers is a very important part. And it's also important to understand that we are doing that before they go into the army. After that, they start a training course, which is also before they join the army. So they're doing a training course where there are military commanders, and that was where I was the course commander. So that means that course, and also what comes after, but the course before they enlist. And that is the time where we do basically their tironut, which means basic training. And they don't do the classic basic training like every other soldier in the military does. They do basic training through us. And we also train them for the military profession. And we don't only do that as a military training. The training course, we're going to learn a bit more about it, but it's basically half military and half basic life abilities, basic life that they can get with occupational therapists, speech therapists, mental health therapists that can help them understand the army better and just give them more, teach them the abilities or teach them the skills they need to be better soldiers. So I'm happy to answer this question. If they're not found to fit the program, are there more programs that are available to people on the spectrum? Do they have to recruit to the army? So they don't have to be recruited to the army. So if they don't go through Roim Rachok, they can just decide to stop trying to get into the army, but there are more programs. This specific program is very, very strict. It's exclusive because it brings soldiers into those very, very wanted and high demand occupations in the army. So there are other programs that they can bring you. Most of them won't bring you for a full service. Roim Rachok can bring you for a full army service, 2 years and 8 months. Other programs might bring you for just 1 year, and depends. There are a few other programs. There is a new program that's totally IDF. The IDF has started, it's now on a trial period to see if they can deal with the whole thing alone without the outsource nonprofits. So there are the IDF programs, and there are also a few more that are called larger in uniforms and or equal in uniforms. I'm not sure about their names, but they're just very, very different than Roim Rachok. After the training course, which is very, very intense and not everyone passes it, because if we see that they can't manage some stress, if they can't manage the learning how to talk to a commander and what is a commander, understanding the vibe that you have to have, and how you speak when you're a soldier, how you dress when you're a soldier. We practice with them shaving, we practice with them dressing the clothes, like putting the army uniform correctly, which is very tough for a lot of them. A lot of them have very hard time putting specific types of pants. Some of them only wear like sports pants. They have never worn jeans, or they've never worn the horrible army pants that are not very comfortable. So we practice a lot of these things with them. And if they can't make it, they will not go into the army. They can do other things. They can go through other programs, or they can volunteer and do like a national service. And the other way, I mean, if the soldiers can fit the army, they are very good soldiers, they know how to listen to commands, but they are not good at their profession, we usually find a different thing they can do. We help them find the right profession for them. So we've had a soldier that was in the aerial photo analyst course, but he just wasn't very good. He did not fit to any other professions. So eventually, the job that he did, he worked in the military police. He was responsible of the cars entering and exiting the Kiryat, which is the biggest base in Tel Aviv. It's like the headquarters of the army. So he was responsible for like seeing the information of the cars, making sure that the cars have the right license plate and they can go enter and leave the. So he did a meaningful job. He did finish the service after just 1 year, but even if we saw that he could fit the army, he could be a good soldier. So there are some cases like that. After the training course, they are still not being recruited, but they start a trial period, which in the trial period, they're still like they're considered civil volunteers in the army. So they don't get any salary yet. They're not recruited yet, but this is like the trial period to see if they can fit. We put them in the unit. Usually we have like another course that's in the base. Some of them go straight to their units, to their actual teams, and start doing the job. And we see for 2 months if it works. Sometimes it doesn't work and they don't recruit. Most of the times they get recruited and they start the military service after a long training and trial period. They start the military service as regular soldiers, but with the help of Roim Rachok program all through the service. And we'll talk about that. And then at the end, after the service, if they want, they can still have the Roim Rachok program help them integrate into the civil workforce and do jobs that are very, very similar to what they did in the army. So we can go a bit deeper into that and understand who are the candidates. So we have candidates from age 18 to 25. We have had someone coming at the age of 25 and joining the program. So that is possible because of their education is until 21. If they want to, they can do their education until 21. Some of them joined later. They all have to be diagnosed with autism spectrum. So we've had people coming with different kinds of diagnosis, and if they're not diagnosed with autism spectrum, they can't join. But we have also had soldiers going to their Tzav Rishon the first time they meet the army. And in Tzav Rishon, they go to a psychologist that the soldier sees that they are something different. They send them to a psychologist, and then the psychologist sends them into diagnosis. And then they just find out at the age of 17 that they are on the spectrum. But they all have to be diagnosed. And when they are diagnosed, they get an exemption from the military. Only when they are exempted, they can join this program. And they have to have basic oral communication abilities, reading and writing skills, self-sufficient in daily routines, basic management skills. All these have to be very basic because we give them a lot of tools during the training. So during the training course, it is really split into half, where we have the military profession that is managed by the military commanders. And we have the life and working skills, which is managed by occupational therapists, speech therapists, psychotherapists, and also we have yoga. We are doing research. The program is the organization, the nonprofit Roim Rachok are doing research to see that the yoga helps younger people on the autism spectrum. And to manage everything together, we have the course manager. and the course commander. So the course commander is responsible for all the military profession, and the course manager is responsible for everything together. So that's how it works. And yeah, I was very fortunate to be a commander and then the course commander. It's a great thing to do. Usually we have about, let's say, between 24 to 30 soldiers every course. That means about 5 to 6 commanders, a course commander, and then a big team on the life and working skills side, which can be about 2 occupational therapists, 2 speech therapists, 2 psychotherapists, a yoga teacher, something around that. So that's a very good question. What kind of training the commanders are getting to work with those kids? And I'm going to change that. It's not kids anymore, soldiers. We treat them as soldiers the first time they step into our course. They're not kids anymore. What kind of training? So we get a month training from the team, the life and working skills. There is a leader, a doctorate to occupational therapist, a PhD. She's the leader of the professional side that's all about learning about autism and how to deal with that. But during the whole course, we have never-ending support from the professional side. So the soldiers have the most personal connection to the commanders have the most personal connection to the soldiers. And we meet them like on there is like personal meetings, and they do like, if something is happening, it's always the commander is always involved, because that's how it works in the military. If you have a problem, you go to your commander. So we're trying to get them used to it, that the first person they talk to every time is their commander. And we get the tools. We get the tools on which we understand it better. We learn about it. A lot of it is also through experience once you start. But every time there is an issue that we don't know how to deal with, that requires someone else's attention, we always have someone on the team, in the room with us. But eventually, when they start the service, on a daily basis, there is no one from the life and working skills side. On a daily basis, they just meet with their commanders. Once a week or once in 2 weeks, they have the meeting with the therapist. And also the commanders have an ongoing relationship with the therapists to help work with the soldiers during the year. Oh, so that's another good question. I didn't say, are they going home every day, or is it a closed base? It is an open base. Always, they can't stay overnight. These soldiers, because of their position with the army, they're considered volunteers on a psychiatric base. I don't know how to explain it, but because of that, they can't sleep at base. It's very, very, very difficult to get approval to sleep at the base. So they never hold guns. They don't practice with guns. They don't sleep at the base. They go home every day. Yeah, that's that. So after the training course, when we get to the trial period, the training course does not happen on a military base. The training course happens in a civil area. This is usually at a place, so at one of the campuses of the Ono Academy College, Kiryat Academit Ono. They're very big supporters of the program. So usually the training course happens there. And then when they go to the trial period, they start going into the actual military base. And they advance from student to civil volunteer. They actually have an army identification that says civil volunteer. They get an advanced training. They start an operational mission. They do something meaningful at the end of their training. They start adapting to the military routines, cleaning their offices, meeting the commanders, wearing uniforms. Well, not yet. We're not yet wearing uniforms, but we practice it. We practice wearing uniforms. And we make sure that they fit. They fit at their job. It's good, successful, and they do well in the army kind of area. Like when you are in the on academic college, everyone around you it's civil. There is no soldiers, but only the commanders. When you start going into the base, it can be very stressful. You have to go into the gate, and you have to pass your ID, and sometimes it doesn't work. And the officers, they start yelling at you, and you don't know what to do. It's very, very stressful for a lot of those soldiers. But during that time, there is still very, very one-to-one support with the professional team, the occupational therapists and the speech therapists and the mental health therapists. After the trial period, there comes the time to enlist into the army. So they become actual soldiers. Every year they have to sign for another year because of their status. And they start do operational duties. They start do real intelligence job. If they're in the intelligence unit, they start doing really, really important work. They have a never-ending support from the professional team, but it becomes less. So instead of every week, it becomes maybe once in 2 weeks. Instead of someone always on the base, someone is only coming to the base like 2 times a week. So it's never ending through the service, but the soldiers that are doing fine, they're not going to need the support too much, but they never stop learning. And also the teams, they have plans throughout the years on how to this first year there is something to focus, the second year there's something to focus, the third year they're focusing on what's going to happen after the service. So a few more details is there are about 3 to 4 courses a year, depends on the ability of the nonprofit to do those. More than 70 soldiers every year join the service. More than 115 soldiers are serving right now in more than 20 different units. And this is not updated in the last, I mean, it's much more now. I didn't want to give you a wrong number. There are more than 30 members of the professional team that support the courses, that support the soldiers in the unit. The professional teams are civil work. They're civilians, they're not in the army. And they get special permissions to go into very, very secret bases sometimes, because our soldiers join into very many different kinds of units. But every base, someone from the Roim Rachok team will go in there to give the support. So throughout this whole process, these soldiers go through a journey, the journey of acceptance, as we like to call it. That journey is very different for every soldier. And some of them finish the whole service 2 years and 8 months. Some of them finish after a year. Some of them finish after 2 years. But everyone has their own journey, because some of them had really hard time communicating with people their age. So the army really helped them with that. Some of them had a very hard time accepting their own diagnosis. Some of them just did not accept that they're on the spectrum. So throughout the service, they really change. And before I go to the next slide and show you a journey of one of our soldiers, I'll answer a few more questions from the chat. So who funds Roim Rachok? So Roim Rachok is funded by Ever LaOfek, which is a nonprofit that funds this kind of projects. Some of it is from the country of Israel. Some of it is from the Kriya Academic Ono, the Ono Academic College. Some of it is through private funds. Probably more than 50% is through private funds. People from all around the world and from Israel that support the program. The army kind of brings their funds through bringing commanders. So the commanders come and they support the program. But since it is a nonprofit, some of the funds come from the participants. They have to pay because a lot of the processes, usually they don't pay at all because they get from Bituach Leumi, from Social Security. They get a full refund. So basically, some of the funds come from Social Security. So it's kind of from all over the place. So are we with them through the whole course? It's through all of the course. We are them from start to end, and also at the trial period. The commanders are there every day from the morning to the evening, and teaching them the military profession, practicing with them communications. Like we do a lot of practices with the communication therapist, with the speech therapist, and they help like understanding how to talk to a commander. And we practice with the soldiers, and we do like all these different plays kind of to show how it's supposed to work. Very basic things, even hugs. A lot of people hug in Israel when we meet each other. And for people on the autism spectrum, they don't know how long the hug should be. Sometimes they will give you a hug, they will not let go for 15 seconds because they can't understand when you're supposed to give the 2-second hug, when are you supposed to give the 15-second hug? So we sometimes explain it. Who are you supposed to hug? Do you hug your commander or do you don't hug your commander? When do you salute? That's also basic things that every soldier learns. When it is time to tell jokes in the office, when it's time to work? These are things that we learn in the course. Can these soldiers choose as a lifelong career? Unfortunately not. They cannot stay in the army for a lifelong career. This is changing. Some soldiers have managed to stay longer, usually as civilians working in the army. So after you finish your service, usually a lot of the intelligence unit, they like to bring soldiers that were very, very good as a civilian worker. And since they can do that, so some of them stay, but it will not be a lifelong career. Because a lifelong career includes being a commander as well. It includes doing things that people that are on the autism spectrum are going to have very difficult time doing. But they can stay. They can definitely stay for a few more years, and I believe it is changing. That maybe in the near future, soldiers can stay longer and longer because the army understands how great they are and doing their job. And they can really do really, really good job. So you can see people that after 3 years of service have stayed for 2 or 3 years as the civilian workers. And I would like to give you an example, a personal story from a soldier. I hope this next video will play fine, but this is just for you to hear it from someone on the other side, because till now you just heard it from me being a commander. I think it's more than important to hear from a soldier.
Neta is our eldest son, and he's a very happy boy. He always wanted to be like everybody else.
I would say that in every step of his life, we had question marks. Throughout the way, he struggled all the time with autism, and we struggled to find the right framework that will be the best for him.
He always knew that he wants to go to the army and to do something contributing. It's very important for him to be a part of the community.
IDF is a crucial milestone to go through in order to become a real, proud Israeli. For years, the IDF was closed for people with disabilities.
Roim Rachok program is about taking the visual capabilities of people with autism and making use of these abilities to help the IDF and the intelligence. It's very important to get everybody involved in the IDF. Autistics, for me, it's very important because my son is autistic.
We started the program with the idea that people on the autistic spectrum have special visual capabilities. And there's already science research that's proved that they see different. Some of them are doing aerial photo analyst. Some of them are doing quality assurance for software. Others, information sorting.
This is not a project of charity. This is a project of excellence. Now, once I was given proof that the kids that are going through the project of Roim Rachok could function in IDF, that's the time when Ono Academic College went into this project and said, let's bring this together and make sure that Israel could be proud of them and they could be proud of Israel.
Roim Rachok program gives these young adults an horizon for the future. We simulate as much the working day in the army so they can get ready. In these 3 months, they learn the military profession as well as how to be a soldier.
I remember the first day that he was getting in his uniform in the army. We saw someone stepping there, coming towards us, and we didn't believe it's our son. He was with uniform, very proud in himself, walking like that, very tall. And this was very, very exciting moment. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
There is no difference between Roim Rachok soldiers and regular soldiers. Roim Rachok soldiers interpret satellite images and air photos to acquire relevant terrain data and deliver it to the commanders in the field. Our unit is also called the Eye of the Country. We are working day and night to secure Israel. This is the final task, to be safe.
It's a very important job because it's helpful for the IDF to see our enemies and help our troops to know the area. It's a great honor, but also great responsibility.
Once we introduced this program and people see what autistic people can do, I think it changes the way they see them, and it changes the stigma about autism.
It's win-win for the IDF, a win-win for the guy himself, and win-win for the family and us as society.
Because of this program, I am very optimistic about Neta's capability to integrate into the real life.
I'm sure now that Neta is going to be okay. He's going to be independent and to do the job he needs to do. Whatever he chooses, he will do it, and he will do it right. And he will do it good.
So I hope the video was okay and you could see most of it. I wanted to, we're getting close to the end. I wanted to tell you that behind this whole thing, there are amazing people. I'm not going to go through all their names, but it is a big team of really professional people, PhD candidates, PhDs, occupational therapists, speech therapists, people that were very high ranked in the army. So it's something that brings everyone together, the army, the professional side together. They know how to work together to bring this program to excellence. And I wanted to finish with telling a bit of my experience that it has changed my life, being with this program for about 2 years, getting to know those soldiers. It has really changed my life. Even here at the office with me, I have still photos of people I've worked with in the program. The courses I've commanded, it was really meaningful, because I believe it's not only what I could give to them, it's a lot of what they gave me. Better understanding of life, better understanding of them. Learned a lot from the soldiers and also from the professionals. And I wanted to share with you my last moment, basically in the army. After 4.5 years of service as a non-commissioned officer, we always do what we call the Gzirat Choger, which is the just cutting our IDF identification. And I have this video here. Just look, I was so excited to finish on one side, but I was also very, really sad. I finished my service 2 months before I went to Shlichut. So I finished July 2020. And just 2 months after that, I went to my Shlichut here in Jacksonville. So I knew I had something big coming, but leaving everyone was also very, very sad. But that's how it. Yeah, so this is like the last time in it's this ceremony. And yeah, that's it. I think, oh, I have another question. Can the soldiers, oh, well, no, I already answered this. Never mind. Yeah, if you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, it was a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope you learned a few things about the Army and the program. And you can find a lot of the information about them if you just Google Roim Rachok IDF. They have a website in English, so feel free to do that. And also feel free to send me any questions via email through Sivan. I'm happy to answer.
Stav, thank you so much. It was super interesting. And again, I want to thank you so much. And yeah, if you guys have any question, you can send it to me if you want to, or to Stav. The information is on the post on Facebook. Yeah. So thank you so much. It was very, like, a lot of information. Love that.
It was tremendous.
Yeah. And it's very unique because it's another aspect that, like, usually people don't know or even interest in, like, the inclusion of the Israeli army of, like, people with special needs. So it was very interesting and refreshing.
Thank you. And it was exactly 1 hour, so I'm very proud of that as well.
Everybody, one more chance for a question before we leave the room. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.